Well, hello again, everybody. Oh, get the echo feedback in the back. Today is Saturday, July 3rd, 2021. I don't think I even told you the year last recording I did. And it is currently 1:25 p.m. in my time zone. Eastern Daylight Time. The madness that is the madness that is trying to regulate the clocks and daylight savings and all that. But we're living in an age, right, where we're questioning every damn thing. And maybe it'll be a day where we don't have to worry about questioning as often as we do. But that arises from distrust, doesn't it? Like what things really work, what things don't work, what things work so well that we take for granted. I am recording from luxurious studio right now. And we're not in the kitchen again. But you might hear some nature, some natural incidental. But I'm not outside. I am elsewhere. And if my wife is in the background. She is busily putting together some furniture. I said, honey, do you want me to help you? She goes, why? just go record your podcast or not. Well, you know what? I can't call this a non-cast and I can't call this a podcast because non-cast has been taken by many others after a brief YouTube search. And maybe I was thinking about calling this a whatever cast, but I'm sure that's not original enough. Maybe I should call this show "What Am I Going to Talk About Today?" so exciting, huh? Well, what can we talk? Wait, actually, speaking of which, what can we talk about today? I think the subject for today might very well be privacy. Because yesterday I had an event happen that I can't go into right now. Maybe sometime in the not too distant future. Next Sunday AD maybe. That really kind of spooked me. And I shouldn't have been spooked, but it was just an event that just brought home all these different things that I've been studying for the last, goddamn, it's like 15 years now, right? When you start looking into stuff that, the kooks call the conspiracy realm, or is it really the kooks? The normies, I guess, what you'd call them today. They say, don't look into that stuff. It'll fry your brain. It'll steal your soul. It'll be, as Facebook would call you today, an extremist. Whatever that means. All that stuff is, I know it's all over the place, but you know what? I think at the very heart comes from concern in regards to conspiracy things. And at the very end of the day, it's like, okay, listen, is the world a better place? Because you managed to, I don't know, unlock a great secret or a, vast thing that isn't usually spoken out loud, but is implied. I think there's so much. I think what the Western world, pardon me, I'm going to sound a little bit hoity-toity or pseudo-philosophical or whatever, academic even. Maybe the Western world, thrives on building bridges over people who know the truth so badly that they not only listen to these people, but don't publicly acknowledge them, and they try to move past them. And then on the way, that's when the resentment, that's when the insurgency, that's when maybe even, the controller's controlled opposition steps in to sort of constantly manage where the anger and the hate and the upset goes. So they can leverage that to who knows what. This is just, classical, what I've learned anyway, classical black magic, right? Because as long as you can piss somebody off and you can manage their anger in your own way, like dare I say it, the Emperor in Star Wars of all things, right? That's a good example, I think, dramatically anyway. Then you can get away with everything. And that's what I think Jay Dyer calls elite criminality. And I don't know who he's referencing, because it feels like that might be a reference to someone else. But that's what he refers to as elite criminality. Now, going back to privacy. Well, I mean, I know I'm listening to my first, recording. Again, maybe I should just call these recordings. I shouldn't call these, podcasts, whatever. It's just too pretentious. Or maybe recording sounds pretentious. I don't know. Everything's pretentious. Maybe that should be the name of the show, of the recording series. Everything is pretentious. Is privacy another one of those ideas where they're like a gift given to us from quote unquote on high that we feel like we ought to cherish, or is it something that we legitimately have? It's amazing, right? The more you think about these things, the more you're pulled into philosophy. The more you're pulled into the idea that these ideas that were spoken about, how many thousands of years ago, even further back probably, by people who thought about these things a long time ago and wanted to put them to words. And one way or another, somehow it ended up with the world we have today. I know that's really, 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 really condensing it, but it's amazing how nothing has really changed in a way, right? At the end of the day, going back to that, we still have to fight for what we love. We still have to, we get super paranoid because we want to be left alone. we want, in a way, we want things to continue as they are, in the sense that we want our freedom, we want our happiness, we want our dignity. And what's happening today, well, no, I'm sorry. This tends to happen anyway. These things feel like they're constantly a threat, right? In threat, not a threat. These subjects are constantly in threat of people who want to use their, black magic, as it were, to leverage what they see as your weaknesses into their gains. It's a terrible thing. It's almost near constant villainy, sadly. And what the worst of it is, maybe this isn't the worst of it, but one of the aspects to this is pretty bad, is that these con artists tend to use dupes, like these intermediaries that don't know any better. Like, I guess they would be referred to as middle management. Do you hear that in the background? That's my wife dropping the Allen wrench. we have so many Allen wrenches. But yeah, we come to face every day with innocence. With evil almost posing as innocence, or using innocence to get its own ends. And even then, one could even argue that maybe this isn't evil. Maybe there are quote unquote higher intentions at work from these people who we now identify, or we can currently identify as like these con people. And then from then on, maybe we shouldn't doubt them. We should trust them, right? Trusting your managers, trusting your administrators, trusting your senators, presidents, all the way up. Blindly, needlessly, because it seems like, everybody constantly has good intentions, which is not the case. It's absurd to think that way. Religiously, man is a fallen creature, right? If you want to take a look at it that way. And would the heads of these big tech companies love to give out their personal information? Well, of course not. What was it? I guess the other day I saw, Mark Zuckerberg being asked if he would be comfortable sharing his hotel that he was staying in Washington, D.C. He goes, no, of course not. Why would he share that? And it always is a matter of class, isn't it, in a way? Because the people who can get away with it have resources that ensure them of their guarantee, sadly. tragically. Whereas people who don't know better or fight hard to get this stuff sort of battered off and battered away, they're the ones that are kind of like the quote unquote natural resources for the higher class, right? They always like to chew. I don't want this to be like a class thing, right? But like a bourgeoisie proletariat thing. God, no, I hate that kind of wording. But it is present. And how do we go about fighting back? Now, the notion that there has been, that this is like modern history, right? That once this division has been, made conscious, and then people have decided to revolt or fight back against the quote-unquote higher classes or the aristocracy or royalty, et cetera, that this is sort of what defined the age we live in now, right? That the people are a political force, and the big people, as it were, they're also one, and then there's got to be some sort of give and take, right? And in the process of this, we've managed to been granted or fought for what we now know, what we now call as privacy. This bitter fight to just being left alone. I wonder how much of this that I'm espousing or projecting anyway are my own frustrations or my own projections of my inner life. If we're gonna, just do a big sidestep into personal psychology here, or psychology. I don't know. It's like soul searching, introspection. I wonder how much I just want to be left alone. Like how much I just want to run off into the woods, into a cabin somewhere, maybe near a beach, and just have my own world, have my own way, not worry, not giving one iota about the drum beats of the world and where that beat will go, where that tune will go. I wonder how much I so desperately want that I'm able to turn aside everything and just retreat. And just say, you guys figure it out, I'm done. And I wonder how many people there are like me who just want to do that, and they try to figure the world out in their own way, or they try to, gently suggest that people consider this, that, or the other, and they're turned aside over and over and over again for one notion or another. That those earlier people are they just throw their hands up and it's I can't, I quit. And then there's other people who just keep on going, right? That's just what they do. It's in their program, and they keep, hacking away at the roots of evil, as it were. And hopefully there's less evil in the world, and that people live a better life. And the people in the middle who don't know one way or another, they're just sort of just living their life, wanting to, secure a job or secure a career and provide for their families, right? Essentially engineering the fodder for the quote unquote con people to work their black magic, I guess. And when you have certain political structures in place, I wouldn't say political, but certainly certain structures in place that allow aristocrats or, bourgeoisie, I guess, or a certain political elite, or God, I hate elite. The word elite. Ugh. They're allowed to provide some sort of mechanism to reach down and start fucking around with people. essentially. And that's one aspect of this whole schema of, I think, why there is needless suffering in this world. And I think that's probably one reason. Is that there have been systems in place where people can just be allowed to mess with each other. But what's really tragic, how many times have I said that today, right? I've only been doing this for 15 minutes apparently, and I'm saying the word tragic so many times. I should learn to expand my vocabulary. What's really sad is there are people who throughout time this has been going on and they don't know better. But the point I'm trying to make now is that there are people who have been, I think, deliberately engineered, especially when you go to school, especially in the 20th century, maybe starting in the 19th century, that for one reason, for this, I was going to say one reason or another, but it's really specific, isn't it? Where people in these sort of higher classes, they just want people to be dumb. They want people to just say yes all the time. It's part of the sort of the corporate capital. God, I am not left wing or commie, but it's like that's where this is where like all these criticisms are valid on that side, as it were, where they just want to want people to just be yes people. Glen Kealey had a really great pun. In regards to where these deliberate engineers were going to take civilization, and then they were going to have this kind of mixed sex, if you want to call it that, entity, person, and he called them weemen, because it's weemen, weemen, little men, and that just covered a whole slew of sins, right? Because weemen can mean little men, tiny men, in derogatory fashion, but also, he was referring to women who look like men. I'm sorry, women who are, how did it go? I haven't studied this in a while. Women who look like women on the outside, but they're really men on the inside, or women who look like men on the inside, but they're really women on the inside, something like that. And he was referring to these creatures that were like, artificial hermaphrodites in the sense that, they're going to be engineered to self-reproduce. Why? Because they're going to be they're not just part of of an upcoming ruling class, but they're going to be also self-propagate. They're going to have artificial inducements so they can travel the stars and propagate themselves throughout the rest of, the universe. And one can argue that's a very Gnostic way of looking at things, but that's what Glen discovered and has since shared and has since passed on in many ways, because he did die last year, I think. And that was shady as shit circumstances. Anyway, weemen, little men. What the hell was I talking about? My brain just stopped. Maybe we should go back and rewind it. But hey, this is as live as it gets, as they say, right? But listen, I guess what I'm trying to say, my brain just stopped. This podcast is ruined. This recording is just nonsense. It's over. Can't do it anymore. It doesn't help that my foot's asleep. I'm sitting on the floor here. That gives you one clue as to the glamorous studio that I'm recording from. But yeah, let's see if I can backtrack to where I was going with this. They were these weemen, right? These little people, not little people, but these people who are, I guess, part of this bureaucracy. Incidentally, I have to share this with you. Looking into Son of Sam, and in those letters happen to refer to wemon, like women and demons both together. So this isn't a women hating thing. I love women. Am I supposed to say that so I won't get in trouble? I don't know. But hey, you know what? It's part of the whole process of trying to figure these things out. And my wife is downstairs and she's causing, speaking of women, she's causing like a ruckus. Well, not a ruckus, but she's moving things around. She's okay. She hasn't called me yet, or else I'd have to run down and take care of it. Should I take a break? This is really bad, isn't it? Because I'm not supposed to say these things. I'm supposed to cut this stuff out. I'm just wasting your time. How dare I waste your time? Alrighty. So basically, women and bureaucrats, they tend to be one and the same, right? And they are like what the civil servants who can thrive in crises and based on their level of interest can either contract or expand each crisis there happens to be. And on top of this, they can have their nose into really anybody's business. And yeah, this is my way of backtracking to what I was talking about before in the sense that, I mean, what's privacy? If it's another gift from quote unquote on high as sort of like a way to compensate, to gain some leverage or negotiate with, how many millions of masses of people, billions of masses of people, saying to them essentially, it's like, you know what, when you're born into this world, we admit you have a special thing, right? And except for probably psychopaths, they have a different special thing that, oh God, I don't even want to go into that yet. But you have a special thing, and that's privilege unto you, and we can't get to know it. And we'll call that privacy. You can do whatever you want behind closed doors, and it's not up to us to overtly or to plainly rob you of that. But clandestinely, oh yeah. Especially if you're a person of interest, oh yeah. We have to get up and in there and see what's going on in you. It's like that line from Hamlet. Madness in great ones does not unwatched go. They want to see. They want to know. And of course, you bet your ass out of all the the cop and espionage shows that you absorb when you're growing up, maybe. And humanity is a lot of things, but they're also very inventive. And they can send people to get what it is that they want from you. And it's called intelligence, as you know. And then from there, just build a dossier, getting to know you, see what you would do. And based on this premise, these premises, it's not too far-fetched to maybe even wonder if some so-called accidents that happen to people, if they're really just another way of influencing the course of their lives. But it doesn't seem to be as, coincidental or just through sheer happenstance that certain things happen. Like maybe there, happens to be an agency or something out there that can influence the course of people's lives. People that are, for one reason or another, they're considered maybe special or they have to be at a certain place at a certain time. And right now, they're quote unquote not much of anybody. But these people in these agencies, maybe they just think they have long-term plans. Like, wouldn't it be interesting? We can just hit this guy up over here. Like those stories about how certain people happen to be at the certain place at the same time and they don't know each other, but it turns out years later when they get married, it seems like, oh yeah, we were here, and there's a picture of them together at Disney World or something, and they didn't even know each other. It was like years and years before. Well, it's something like that, I guess, where people of interest just happen to be at a certain place at a certain time, and maybe there's a level of engineering that happens through the use of what's known as the occult, or not even as something as mystical or clandestine as that, but through other forces that may that are more mundane that can influence the course of somebody's life and make them become like, I don't know, like a political leader or something down the line. Can happen. Let me just adjust myself here for a second. Okay, I'm back. One reason I want to do these podcasts, or here I go again. One reason I want to do these recordings is because I think I like to think that they help me articulate myself a little bit more. I can write everything down, sure, and I've been doing that, but it's kind of like now I need to be more vocal or proactive as to these things, as to these inner feelings that I have. And heaven knows, I don't know if this is going to lead anywhere. I said in the last recording that I did that, you'd be, I'd be amazed if more people listened to this. Because just because you put something out on the internet does not, or in the world for that matter, doesn't mean you're going to get some sort of attention. It doesn't work that way at all. It's that you just put it out there and you just almost die from neglect, I guess, in a way. But still, I mean, this is just something that I have to do, just to help me build my charisma, I guess, to introduce me to the larger world, to correct my scene and my scheme in life, to make sure I grow up as a person, I suppose. Make me a better man, make me a better person. I don't know. This might be all like hinky-doo, but I think there's some truth to that. I can use this, Yeti Blue X microphone that isn't blue at all, just black. It's called blackout. to as an instrument of myself to just wield my magic and express certain sentiments to the world. I would like to be more charismatic. That'd be pretty nice. On that note, maybe I'll stop for today. I can include some recordings I did while I was out and about this past week. I recorded on my phone, so I don't know if the quality is going to be that good, but it's worth sharing. Is there anything else I should add to this ramble? I should say that I'm trying to get in touch with my friend Sean Nolan, and we might do a podcast together because I think he just got a microphone, and his wife Ann Nolan did other podcasts. So, maybe we'll do a podcast together, but it won't be as deep, if I dare call this deep, or philosophical, or introspective, or rhetorical as all this stuff has been. We're probably just going to talk about movies because a long time ago I was really into making movies. I still am. I still love the process. I always thought, right? I always came to the conclusion that movies are I guess what I wanted to do. I still feel that way. There's something that agrees with my character, right? That I've come to identify. That agrees with my character anyway. Regarding the making of creative endeavors, especially films, what we now know as films anyway. There's something really, really acutely interesting to me about that. Deep interest. And I always wanted to do that. But what sucks is that over the course of, since 2006 was when I left college, when I graduated, when I commenced, as they say. Since then, well, even before then, I feel like I hit this roadblock where you have to do things so minutely and specifically. Like for instance, trying to figure out a story or something to a screenplay or a film that just takes me forever. Like forever. It's such a pain in the ass. And maybe I brainwashed myself into thinking this was the way to do it. A long time ago, I'd work with friends on stuff and things would come out really quickly. But that doesn't necessarily mean that things were as I would have liked them to be. Because I feel like you can do things a little bit better here and there. And of course, the more time you dwell on this kind of stuff, the more opportunities you see. But then, of course, over the course of time, was it another Glen Kealey thing where he says like the amount of time taken to fill something is as necessary as the work you put into it, something like that. I don't even know if he actually even said that, or I read one of his posts about it a long time ago. But I just got hung up on that, and it just really killed me. I just killed my career. It threw me for a loop. But in the way, it made me more introspective than I've been before then. And it's awful. It's an awful experience. It's sort of like a professional enema. You just want to go through everything and make things as perfect as they can be. Right? But on the way, I also have diverse interests, and I've recorded other things with other people before. I haven't shared them for one reason or another, but they're present. They're out there. Also, it was just that I had another interest. Like I wanted to start, writing. I wanted to sort of master the short story, I guess, if you want to call it that, because I can be. I don't know if you noticed, but I can be so rambly and get off topic and record podcasts or non-casts or whatever casts. Anyway, look, I've always tried to find my way back to the track, right? And I found many ways to do it. And this is my way of doing it. Maybe that's what I should call this whole show, is Back on the Track. That's not a bad title. Anyway, 32 minutes. I feel like I can go on for a little longer, and I have no idea what else to talk about. I guess, you know what, going back to the privacy thing, we do take for granted what we have. We do. What we are aware that we feel like we have. And what sucks is how it is because sort of becoming conscious of that, of the things that we're responsible of or responsible for. We can be so blind. We can be so stupid. We can be totally ignorant of just how valuable we can be. The converse is also true. We can be too painfully aware of how weak and useless we can be. And I think that says something special about consciousness. That we are able to experience these two seemingly contrasting feelings so deeply. There's highs and then there's lows. And we feel that. And the question today, I guess, is, will we still be able to feel that in the future? Are we still able to do that in the future? And would we want to? Are these feelings just something else that a group of people, ironically themselves, feel should be done away with? Because they feel entitled and they felt like they're the ones who gave us these notions to begin with. And that they're the original ones and we're not. Does this sound crazy? No. There are some people who just think that they're the origins of trends, the quote-unquote influencers, as it were. That I think it starts and dies with them. And these people can be called the culture creators. They're part of the aristocracy, who knows? But they're available. And they feel entitled to steal or plant or engender or cultivate, or the word culture there, It's not a trick, excuse me. It's not a coincidence. It is a culture that they can engender behaviors and attitudes in people. And then on top of that, the people think that it's their own attitudes and beliefs and behaviors, that it arose from them. And at the end of the day, at the end of the age, I guess, these quote unquote big people will say, okay, that's enough. We have to put something else in them now. And then when your precious beliefs go away and they're updated with something else, will you be aware? Will you know what you had before? Will you know how conscious you were? And even then, do you care? Do you understand? What if inside is nothing but hollowness? You're just a vessel to be filled. And you had no other way of knowing that until somebody almost kills you or steals what they put in your place to begin with. I was watching Stephen Wright this past week, and he had a really, of course he's funny as hell, but he had a really funny bit where he goes, paraphrasing, he goes, somebody broke into my apartment and replaced everything with an exact replica. Right? Would you be able to tell the difference? Growing attitudes, evolving social norms. What does that mean? Really, what does that mean? Really, what does that mean? And does that even matter, what it means? Putting the brakes on something, like I'm doing now, and trying to stop and figure it out. Does that have any worth? The questions that you feel like you have to ask because you're pressured into asking. The attitudes you have to take because you feel like you're pressured into taking. The whims of the world. And the people paying enough money to other people to engender and enforce those whims. Do those matter? Why is it so important for you to believe what you believe? And if people can just steal it and replace it with a replica, then did that even matter to begin with? What does this all matter? What do you want to occupy your soul with? Is this all this insidiousness, if you can dare call it that, is this all just devilry? Is this just black magic? Are these just demons just rubbing their hands or their hoofs or whatever, just dying to get inside your soul? Do you even want a soul? Is this something you want? I saw a video of a childbirth the other day. The cesarean section, sure. But still, it was a childbirth. And the impression I got watching these twins being born was just like, oh my God. we just fall short of God, in a way, right? It's like the composition of a human being just falls short of whatever the divine is. Excuse me. As I burp. Isn't it amazing that I could pick up something like that too? That anybody could? Is it a wonder that people look at their own children and see babies and they just think, wow, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life. This is the greatest thing that's ever happened to me. That you can hold a child and just by their mere presence, I guess depending on the child, of course, but just by their mere presence, you can see something like that, where it's like, wow, we come so close to being something like God. Not in sort of a, Gnostic or intellectual way. Nothing like that. I'm talking about, you see it almost. It's almost as if it's a step down for what divinity is. And I'm not I'm not trying to make this a spiritual or religious thing. I'm not. But that's sort of where my mind went. And you can't deny your own feelings. Other people can deny you your feelings. But at the end of the day, at the end of the moment they're denied, you can still proactively fight through that and feel how you feel. You can do it. It's not absurd. People write you off because they're scared. Maybe not all the time, but they're scared of one thing or another. But the best part about being what we are sometimes as humans is that we can fight. We can go through it. We can go through that pain. We can engage other people in that kind of drama or conflict. It's not something we run into the bed and hide and cry about. Is that supposed to be the more noble turn of action? Or maybe is the more noble turn of action something that is now so decried, as it were, no pun intended, that you can't do it at the moment? You have to hold back, and you have to strategize and plan about your revenge or your retribution that you want to inflict on other people, if that's the case. Has honesty been marginalized? And that's a subject for another time, right? Because, think of it this way, if you can control culture, then does that also mean you can control what's articulated as honesty? Right? Can you imagine having to invent words so that people who don't know the extent of their own feelings can use those words to articulate them to other people, and they may or may not know what they're talking about? Is that still genuine? What is genuineness in terms of all of this? How do you, fight back and override the people who just want to put thoughts and ideas in your head all the time? And lead you in one direction or another because they feel is best. How do you fight back against that when they're armed to the teeth? How do you say to the world, I'm present, I exist, without being drowned out now? How do you live like this? How do masses upon masses of people live in honesty? Just because someone dresses up as a drag queen or king, for that matter, or jester, drag jester, that's identified as genuine? Perhaps. But what about the others who just, like I said earlier, they don't want it. They don't want anything to do with this. They just want to be by themselves. They just want to do their thing. And because the world now has an idea that being genuine means this, that, or the other, that idea of just going off by yourself and doing your own thing may not be classified as genuine anymore. That's how insane this all is. Can you grasp that? It's understandable. You can do it. I think that's it for today. It is Saturday, July 3rd, 2021, 2:09 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. My foot's asleep. You guys take care out there. It can be fun and funky, but also terrifying. I had a title for this show that came up. I'm sitting on the floor and my foot's asleep. And I forgot what it was. It was a good one too. Maybe it's like What's It Matter Now or something. Is that too it's like it's too emo, as they used to say. I don't know if people still say that. All right. Well, and that's the case. All right, guys. That's enough for now. Oh, the birds are protesting. Take care. I'll see you when I'll see you.